boat's built by CJ up in Queensland, Bundaberg. It's a 385 Nomad high side boat, running a 25 horsepower Mercury on the back, long shaft. Boat gets up and goes at about 20 knots on the water after I put a hydrofoil and a different pitch propeller on it. There's a bit of weight in the back, considering I've put cast decks and all that sort of stuff, which you'll see later on. The reason I went with the 385 high side Nomad was I'm sort of after that small boat that I'm not afraid to bang up and scratch. I'm about 7.5 to 8 hours away from the closest open water, so I'm sort of looking at those rivers, dams, stuff like that, and it just fits perfectly. I picked this up at Central West Marines in Parkes, New South Wales. Spoke to a fellow named Matt. He was real good, real helpful, took the time and effort. So if you need a boat, give him a call. Righto, so I think I'll start with what the boat come with when I picked it up and go from there. So when I picked it up, it actually had the grey and the black paint. So I was lucky enough it matched with the Go Rogue theme. So that's standard. And this was the only storage hatch in the whole boat. This one box here, these pieces were all solid. This was just a plain bench seat. This wasn't here, that wasn't there, the rod locker. It had the floor in it. This was another bench seat, and these weren't here either. So what I added on, this also wasn't in it either. That was just an empty hole in there. So like I said, that was just an empty spot up the front there. I got a piece of cardboard, traced it out with the gunnels, down, around and under. Got a bit of marine ply, stuck the cardboard to it, cut it out. Marine carpet, glued it straight on, wrapped it around. I'll show you how I stuck him on. So I just popped these two little elastic latches off there, pull it down, lays flat, and that's where I keep all my life jackets and stuff like that, because it's the highest spot in the boat, keeps them dry out the weather. Two latches either side, keeps it tight, tensioned once I've opened. So I use Quick Grip, I'm pretty sure it is, spray cans, and just sprayed the timber and the back under the carpet, and then rolled it all over, cut them, all the shapes, and then stapled it down at first to hold it in place, and then I went along with these button head screws and screwed it all down so it doesn't come loose at all. And it's just the life jackets up there, that's it. Righto, next is the original cast deck that come with the boat. Like I said, this was the only storage spot, so I'll show you what was in there and how much room they gave me and what I've added to it. So this is the original storage box. Open him up, and that's the storage they gave me, which is taken up mostly by a lithium battery that runs the electric motor up the front. So there's all this side space that wasn't getting utilised, and having that battery there just made bigger things harder to get in there. So I went ahead, took it all out, cut it, and got one either side. That way I can utilise as much as I possibly can. Righto, moving back. This used to be just the original bench seat, and it still is. All I've done to it is put some C-deck foam on it. It's 3mm grey, 3mm black, with 3M tape on the back side, stuck down, solid as a rock, it's not coming off. And what I've done to it is I've got a router and just routed a box around, and then I had to use inches purely because of the router that I had couldn't do centimetres, it was just too close together. So I've done it in inches as my ruler, and it come up smick I love it. This is my large storage box. I'll keep all my tackle box and all that sort of stuff in here. But at the moment, I'll just got some Railblazer lights. I've got a lot of Railblazer mounts on this boat. I'll show you later. That's my lights, foot pedal remote for the electric, just a paddle. I know I've got electric on here if the motor breaks down, but you never know. I just keep it in there. It doesn't take up much room. Anchor, lure retriever stuff. Righto, just the one latch. Once again, I just used marine ply, stuck marine carpet on there, stapled, and then a button head screwed. For the framing, I picked this aluminium up from, well, you can get it from Bunnings, but I got mine from Steel Supplies in Dubbo. It's 25.4mm tubing, and they go well with these joiners. If you go to Bunnings, it's next to the aluminium section. They've got a heap of joiners. You can make whatever frames up you want. I actually did this in the rod locker, I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, I just made a square frame, light as, solid, and then I've just tech screwed it to the marine ply floor. And yeah, I can walk on it and do whatever. And then same on the front as a kickboard, just marine ply screwed into the frame. Up next is the rod locker. So I use the same framing system as I did as the large storage compartment with the aluminium tubing. The only difference is, instead of the rail in the centre, I've taken that out so I can get my rods in there. And also, instead of hinging from the back, I've had to cut with the saw towards the centre a bit because of the gun will stick out. So when I hinge it up, it hinges from here with 3 hinges, just so I can open it right up. So there's the aluminium tubing frame again, just tech screwed to the floor. So I actually stole this idea from a YouTube channel called Tiny Boat Nation, and they hole saw either side of the bench and then drill out the foam inside, and then they run a PVC pipe through the bench seat and glue it in, and then that way it holds your rods in. Front as well. And I've got two of the pipes actually extend through the seat up into the front, which you would have seen earlier, just to hold those bigger bait casters, swim bait rods. And just another kick panel. With the rear cast deck, I had to use aluminium angle because there's no floor at the back here, because you've got the fuel tank and the starter battery for the motor. So when I used aluminium angle, I ran a strip across the front of the bench seat and along the back of the boat, riveted through. So when these just pop out, fuel tank, I can take him out, empty it if fuel goes stale or anything, still access all that. Same thing on the other side, comes straight out. Waterproof box, got my first aid, snake bite kit, bug spray, sunscreen, manuals, torch, whistle, all that sort of stuff. All my electricals is up the back here as well. It's all pop riveted into the bench seat, which I'll show you in a minute. Just next to it under this one is the starter battery. This one doesn't fully come out purely because of the wires and the fuel line, but you can still access it by lifting it up. You can see the aluminium frame, that's all angled, just pop riveted together. starter battery right there. And I also got a bilge pump down the bottom. Like I said, just fuel tanking this side, get him out whenever I want. That's the aluminium angle riveted to the bench seat. More of a frame there, I'll show you more in a sec. This is the other, where the other angle is riveted through the back of the boat. Rivets along here, this side as well. That's the first aid and all your gearbox, waterproof box. Aluminium tubing at the front. Righto, we're going to move on to the electrics. At the moment, all the electrics are running off the starter battery. Because it doesn't matter if it goes flat. I've got pull start to get going again, and I purely want to leave the lithium battery to run my electric motor. Because if I go away for a couple days, a week, I just don't want that going flat. Righto, starting with the lead acid battery, that's a starter battery, and it also runs all the electrics. Next to it I've got my bilge pump, which is glued to the floor. It's got its own float in it, so I don't have to worry about water sneaking up on me. But I watch it, and I've got it wired into a switch anyways. This here is a marine fuse box. That's a lithium bus bar, temporary isolating switch. This is running the bilge pump, fish finder, and I've got a set of gang switches up near this fish finder. The temporary isolating switch is just for that gang switch because they've got their own lights in it. The rolled up cable is just extra cable for the transducer, which runs along the aluminium angle on the back, comes out the back, goes down. These wires coming up are all the wires for the fish finder and the transducer. So before I grab this, sits in there snug. So all the fish finder wires coming out of the back casting deck, up along the side underneath the gunnel, along, and then into the rail blaze mountain bracket for my fish finder. I like this mountain bracket because it actually makes slots for the wires to slot into, keeps them out of harm's way. These mountain brackets are pretty much all I use on this boat. Plastic lock, unlock, pull it out, push it back across the lock. I use this bracket purely because it's got this locking collar on it. When I'm driving, I have the screen facing this way, but when I'm up on the front cast deck, I pop that up and I can twist him around, face the front, and then I can push him back down and lock it. I can take the screen off when I'm not in the water and I'm driving home or driving to the dam. You just pop this little plastic clip here and the screen comes straight out. Also with those fish finding wires, I've got the wires to my gang switch I've got in my side of my gunnel. I just cut a square out with my grinder, slid that in and then just pop riveted straight in. This first one's just the bilge pump. Lights for the deck, which I haven't got them in yet, but very soon. And these are just accessory switches. So the fish finder I've got in this boat is Elite FS7 by Lowrance. I mainly use sonar and downscan purely because I haven't had it for long and I'm still learning, but I hope to get more into the side scan side of things. I usually run the sonar on pallet 13 purely because it turns the ground to brown and you can see fish on the bottom and that sort of thing. With the sonar, usually like blue, just lights up your fish and everything. Easy to identify whatever you're looking at. My electric motor is a motor guide. It is the XI5, and I have a support bracket made by Railblaze again, which is just on a mountain bracket in the side of the gunnel. It is powered through this Anderson plug, which runs down into the lithium battery through a 60 amp circuit breaker. There you go, guys, that's the Go Rogue boat for you. Like and subscribe for more content. Any questions, don't hesitate, comment below, I'll try and get to them. Yeah. Catch you on the next one.